Hi, and thanks for tuning in. This is the Learn with John Eick podcast, and today is day 120. 120 on my 180-day drive to school. That's, I don't know, that seems significant. That seems like a lot of talking. Let's see, it's 120 days. If I talk for, roughly 10 minutes a day, put the zero on the back of 120, that's 1,200 minutes. There's 60 minutes in an hour. Oh no, I'm doing math out loud. Is that 20 hours? Oh my gracious, is that 20 hours of talking? Lord, so when I get to 24 hours of straight talking, I will have talked for a whole day. That's kind of cool, huh? Mathematically, I wonder if that's going to happen. All right, that's not what we're here to talk about. Today's 120 on my short drive. Today on the short drive, I'm heading over to the high school because that's what I'm doing, and it's a beautiful day. The sky is blue. The clouds have parted. The rain has stopped. I think it's going to come back in this weekend, but after a bunch of rain, it's nice to get a blue skies day. So looking forward to today. I love it. Some blue skies. Some blue skies day. I was talking with somebody yesterday because I riffed a little bit about what do you think. What do you think the innovation in edu right now is? And I think it has something to do with, because we're a people industry, focusing on the people. And then I started thinking about how we approach, college and career readiness, how we approach education in general. There's this interesting conversation in the doctoral community, when I went to get that doctorate, right? I don't know if I've mentioned that I'm a doctor. Not a medical doctor. But I got this doctorate. There's an interesting conversation in the doctoral community around excuse me, is the doctorate really human development? Are you smarter because you went and got a doctorate? Do you know more things? Are you really, do you have an increased skill set because you got the doctorate? Or is it just a signal? Right, this term signal is used, in this conversation all the time. Is it a signal? You got the piece of paper, you got the letters behind your name. You get to say, "Oh yes, I've committed to something for 3 full years." And at the end of that 3-year, endeavor, I was able to kind of defend some thoughts that I had, and so it's a signal of commitment and capabilities. But is it really human development? Are you really, hey, if I worked out for 3 years and lifted weights and ate healthy, gosh, I should really start doing that. That's a good idea. I think you'd be like, hey, you invested 3 years in human development. You are shaped differently. I'd like to be shaped differently. But because you went and get a doctorate for 3 years, is your brain shaped differently? Have you really developed? And so I think it's an interesting concept. I've got all kinds of thoughts on it because although I play an optimist on TV, I'm naturally somewhat skeptical. It's like that. Yeah, I'm 51 years old, so I'm kind of an anti-establishment type person. So, that's just the way I grew up, in the mind mold that I was born into, I think. So, I'm always like, it's just a signal. I have some deep thoughts of that, but that's not where I'm going. I'm going to school right now, and I'm wondering the same thing about school. I look at what we do to our kids, and I think that they need they are better off having addressed the standards kindergarten through 12th grade and graduated college and career ready. I think they are better off for it because I think it does shape the way they perceive the world around them, and so it is important. But it is also I sometimes trip up on how important is it? How important is it that we measure mastery in such a way that kids are actually able to fail out? Man, what is going on with this light here? Sorry, everybody. Oh, yeah, this light's turned sideways. I sometimes say, hey, look, what? I don't want to lower the bar. Because I do think that learning the K-12 standards is super legit, and I think that those standards are going to shape the way that our students become adults, and so I think that's incredibly important. However, there's this fine line between holding people to this high standard of academic excellence and saying we're going to create a barrier that if you can't overcome it, then your self-worth is inherently lowered, and we're predicting very low productivity rate from you for the rest of your life. There's this there's this line there that I wonder if the industry doesn't cross sometimes. I know how important it is to develop the human mind in such a way so that the paradigm is set, and so paradigmatically we look at the world and we recognize, we utilize critical thinking and things like that to gain a global perspective and makes us better citizenry. And I love that part of it. So I think that the K-12 educational system is human development. It does help shape the paradigm the adults will take with them the rest of their life. However, sometimes I look at a kid who stumbles over a barrier and I go, oh my gosh, that's the barrier we put up because they didn't do homework. They're losing the points that then make them not valued. Like, we're not valuing what they're producing, and so then we're saying they're not qualified to utilize the paradigm that we're trying to give them in life. Gosh, this is a longer conversation. I'm in the parking lot right now, but I got actually a voice thread from a podcast listener yesterday who was riffing on my game theory. She sent it out. She's like, hey, I recorded this because I want to talk back to you about the game theory thought. What she was taking away from that game theory thought was like, hey, how do we structure the game of education and have authentic assessments and authentic point structures so that we're actually measuring for mastery in the correct way and not creating paradigms that's like point acquisition is the game, that actually learning, developing critical thought is the game, right? And based on that riff, I listened to it again this morning, based on that riff, it makes me think about, like, is the graduation from high school just a signal, or is it actually human development? And like anything, I think it's somewhere in between. And I think we need to be careful that the human development side is recognized for what it is and for what it's worth, and then measure the points based on that, so that we don't accidentally hold back from somebody the opportunity to succeed post-graduation, like not graduate simply because they weren't able to play certain parts of the game, right? So if it is part signal, then what is this signal signaling? That you acquired the appropriate paradigmatic skill sets to establish the paradigm that's appropriate for future lifelong learning, not, I was able to master every conceptual standard in the way that the teacher in isolation identified that it needed to be measured. It's kind of a longer riff, but I'm super lucky that I work with the people that I work with, because I think they're kind of on point with this same concept. I look at the grading practices in our organization and the open-mindedness to like retakes and making sure that we're measuring mastery, when mastery is acquired, rather than on a timeline that is like, well, this is when the paper's due, and so if you don't measure mastery by this date, then you clearly aren't mastering. And I love that we focus more on mastery than on time frames, because those don't set paradigms in the same way. All right, guys, it's kind of a strange riff right there, but it's day 120, and I got a cup of coffee in my hand. I'm gonna sip on it and head into work. Hey, thanks for listening. My name's John Eick. You can find me on Twitter @John_Eick. I'll catch you next time.